Alright, so everybody, this is Z Street here, back to a brand new video. Week 6 of college football. It is a Monday, about 7 in the evening. I want to do this yesterday on Sunday when I had off work, but just kind of forgot, never got around to it. And by the time I realized that I hadn't made a video, it was past midnight. Um, I did want to have it uploaded and ready to go yesterday, but oh well. Let's go ahead and get into it. Week 6. Quite a disappointing week for me. And you'll probably already, if you've watched videos in the past, you probably know why and anticipate why. Let's go ahead and get into it. On Friday, we had BYU playing West Virginia. BYU undefeated now, 5-0, 2 in the Big 12, ranked. They beat West Virginia, who was struggling, 2-4, 0-3 in the Big 12. BYU looking like one of the favorites to win the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is actually very competitive this year. I think after seeing the progressives, there could be a lot of upsets, but you never know. Number 1, Ohio State versus Minnesota. No shock here. Minnesota has not been. Well, I mean, they had a little span of decent teams, but they had no shot here against Ohio State. Juden Sane had over 300 yards. Good for him. Look right here. This guy had 351 yards. That's impressive. 42-3. Top 25 matchup. Number 3, Miami, having a resurgence. I mean, they had a good year last year, Cam Ward. But I would say they're even better this year. Whereas number 18, Florida State, who has now dropped 2 games in a row. As we all know, they defeated Alabama in week 1 and then got into the top 10, I believe, maybe, or top 15. And then had the upset loss to Virginia in overtime. That was last week. And now they've lost to Miami. They are now 0-2 in the ACC and fall to 3-2 on the year after a very promising start. Meanwhile, Miami is 5-0, top 3 team in the nation, looking like a clear-cut favorite to win the ACC. Carson Beck perhaps proving naysayers wrong that maybe Georgia was at fault, that maybe he was a good quarterback and he just was under a bad offense. Oklahoma versus Kent State. No shock here. Kent State is probably one of the worst programs in the history of college football. They've never been good. I don't think ever. They back up Oklahoma. Hawkins had a okay game. I mean, they only have to play very well. Versus Kent State, they win 44-0. Number 6, A&M versus number unranked Mississippi State, who started the year out 4-0. Since then have lost their first 2 SEC matchups. A&M now a top 10 team. Marcel Reed looking like a Heisman favorite. Didn't have the best game this game, but still propelled his team to a win. It was only 7-3 at the half, and then they had a dominant second half, scoring 24 unanswered points. I actually had a friend of mine from work. Her name was Gabby. She actually got to go to this game. So I think it was her very first college football game, and she definitely enjoyed it. So it was cool that she got to experience the awesomeness that is experiencing in college football. And I got to tell you that despite A&M being the rival of my favorite team, they probably have one of the best stadiums, if not the best stadium, and the best crowd in all of college football. So I gotta give my hat to them. They're looking very dangerous this year. Penn State drops 2 in a row after being ranked number 2, I think, in the beginning of the year. Are now 3-2 on the year and 0-2 in the Big Ten after last week's loss to Oregon, arguably the best team in college football last week. Now losing against UCLA, who before this was winless. As you can see at the half, it was not even close. It was 27-7. Penn State pulls together a miraculous comeback, but falls short late. And UCLA gets its first win. Nico Emalava, the transfer from Tennessee, has been getting a lot of flack online recently about how he transferred to UCLA because Tennessee wouldn't pay him enough money, and now is on a horrible team. However, UCLA's coach got fired. The new interim head coach is a very, I guess, popular former UCLA quarterback, and they did very, very well. The first half, as you can tell, 27 points. Fell off in the second, but they just beat Penn State. So perhaps a mid-season turnaround for UCLA. I doubt it, but let's go into the disappointing part. Texas, number 9 in the nation, previously ranked number 1 in the nation. is now 3-2 and falls to Florida. Before then was 1-3 and was looking like a really bad team. Florida was one of those teams that people thought were really good, that DJ Lagway would be a Heisman favorite this year. That was not the case. They struggled a lot this year, and they played Texas. And I gotta tell you guys, Arch Manning probably is one of the worst starting quarterbacks in college football. I mean, he can't read the field, is inaccurate, extremely inaccurate past 20 yards, makes horrible decisions, very interception prone, seems to get nervous. It is, from people who said that he was the Heisman favorite, it's such a long fall. I personally believe that the backup would be a better choice than him. I think that maybe perhaps he was at a 2A school against like probably no real athletic competition. Now coming into college, it just does not translate. And he's had 2.5 years to get better, and he is not. With Arch Manning as quarterback, I firmly believe that Texas will fall from number one team in the nation to not even bowl eligible if they don't pull him off the field, despite him being worth like $20 million. You just gotta cut your losses at that point. Put in Caldwell is my opinion. It's really embarrassing. 16 Vanderbilt versus Alabama. As we know, last year Alabama beat number one Georgia, a thriller, and then the very next week lost to unranked Vandy. And that Vandy is a good team. Diego Pavia is playing very, very well this year. They haven't really played anybody good yet, but they put up a fight. It was tied at half. Then Alabama goes for 16 unanswered in the fourth quarter, proving that Vandy might be good, but they're not that good. Ty Simpson, as we know, struggled in the very first game, is now looking like a Heisman favorite at 340 yards. Also, by the way, this was DJ Lagway's first good game ever this season. Not ever, excuse me. Texas Tech versus Houston. Texas Tech remains undefeated, remains as the number one offense in the entire nation. They are looking like the clear-cut favorites, besides perhaps BYU. Honestly, I don't think anyone in the Big 12 can touch Texas Tech this year. That's my opinion. They very well could go into the playoffs undefeated. No. That's the Big 12. I don't know, the Big 12 is one of the weakest conferences. So we'll see how they fare against Big Ten teams and SEC teams, but very, very potent offense. I believe this is still their backup, and he has been playing extremely well. Kentucky and Georgia. Georgia, a dominant performance Kentucky, who normally plays teams very, very well. They're 0-3 in the SEC. Here's the thing. I think if Kentucky was in any other conference, like if Kentucky was in the Big 12, they'd be competitive. If they were in the ACC, they'd be competitive. But they're in the SEC, and it's so such a talented conference that they are in the bottom tier. However, they normally still put up a pretty good fight against almost every team they play, for the most part, but not today. 35-14. Georgia with the bounce-back game after their loss last week to Alabama. Iowa State versus Cincinnati. Iowa State, their first loss of the year comes to Cincinnati, who is now 4-1 and 2-0 in the Big 12, looking like a sleeper for the Big 12. Iowa State pulling off their first loss of the year was Becht, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, I would say. Had a decent game, but not enough. And Iowa State loses its first game of the year. We got Michigan versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin, one of those teams projected. People always think they would do pretty good, but I think they've fallen off a lot as a program when they used to be the running back university, kinda. Michigan wins 24-10. Boise State and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, as we know, has had a lot of struggles. Its two losses being to A&M and Miami. And Boise State last year was in the playoffs. Ashton Genty. This is kind of proving that maybe he carried them a lot more than he should have, and he definitely should have won the Heisman. I definitely agree with that, but this definitely proves it because they are not very good this year. And Notre Dame gets the win, 28-7. Illinois versus Purdue, coming off a breathtaking loss to Indiana, which they lost like 63-10 last week. Win against Purdue, 43-27. Lou Altmaier has almost 400 yards passing. Good for him. And then Virginia and Louisville. This was a very close game. Went into overtime. Louisville coming in undefeated. Virginia coming off a big upset win against Florida State last year that put both of them in the top 25. They get the win. They're now 3-0 in the ACC, and they're 5-1. Meanwhile, Louisville drops their first loss and now 1-1 in the ACC. Before we look at the rankings, let's go ahead and look at the stats real quick. See if anything's changed. Baylor guy's still up top. Duke guy's still up here. No change here. Mizzou guy still leading rusher. Michigan, no shock there. Receiving, the guy from USC and Oregon State. So a little bit of change here, I believe. Let's actually go into the Big 12. Oh. Let's go into the SEC out of curiosity. Ty Simpson, Aguilar, Pabia Green from Arkansas, and Marcel Reed. Let's go into the ACC. Good. Wow, none of the big team, none of the ranked teams are leading ACC. There's Kevin Jennings, SMU. Let's go ahead and go into the rankings. Ohio State obviously staying number 1. Miami pushes Oregon out of the top number 2. I think it kind of makes sense because like with Penn State's loss, it makes their win against them look a lot worse. However, Miami has been beating pretty good teams. I mean, I think both the teams that they played are either out of the top 25 or barely in the top 25. So, either or. Ole Miss still at 4. Crazy to see them that high. A&M at 5, getting the top 5. Bumping Oklahoma down 1. Crazy to see them in the top 5 as well. Indiana at 7, also crazy. A lot of crazy things that we're seeing, like Texas Tech in the top 10 at number 9. Crazy to see. Alabama back in it after getting bumped out early in the season after the first loss. Georgia back in the top 10 as well. LSU just outside. Tennessee just outside. Georgia Tech bumps up 4. Missouri is going up 5. All these teams right here have gone up 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Wow. Missouri, Michigan back in the top 15. Notre Dame back in the top 20. Illinois back in the top 20. BYU now in the top 20. Virginia now in the top 20. Vandy drops 4 spots from wherever it was, like top 15 down to 20, so they would have been 16. Arizona State is at 21. Iowa State drops 8 points. Still in the top 25, but drops significantly. Memphis 6-0, undefeated, unranked. People thought they should have been ranked all year long. They are now top 25. Same with South Florida. They're 4-1. Florida State drops 7 points, just outside the top 25 at 3-2. Meanwhile, Penn State and Texas from 2 top 10 teams drop completely out. And honestly, I kind of agree with that point. Like, ACF Coaches Bowl has them at 19. No, they don't deserve to be in. That's pure facts. Just outside Cincinnati and Texas, Penn State, Utah, Nebraska. Let's check the schedule for next week, see what we got going. Sorry, scores next week. Week 7. South Florida playing North Texas. North Texas is undefeated. Now, this is a really cool story about him. This messmaker guy. He was working a 9 to 5. Never had any offers. Became a walk-on somewhere. I forget where. Backup, like 3rd or 4th string. Injuries. He now becomes the leader of North Texas and is leading them to a 5-0 start. Great story. South Florida has a big test here. I would not. It's in Denton, so North Texas will be the home team. Personally, we'll be pulling for North Texas to pull up the upset here. That'd be really cool to see. It's a really cool story about this guy, so go ahead and check it out more in detail if you want. Illinois versus Ohio State. This, I think, is going to be a loss. It's going to be a big loss, which will probably pivot Illinois out of the top 25. I think they're going to get their ass whooped. But you never know. Could be some magic. Missouri versus Alabama. In Missouri, could be a good game. Could not be. I don't really know. I think Alabama is definitely the better team on paper. But it is the SEC, so I'm not really sure. Missouri's undefeated. So, we'll see if they can depend on Hardy to lead the way. Pittsburgh versus Florida State. Florida State desperately needs a win. Be their first from the ACC. Pittsburgh is not a bad team, but they definitely need. They're at home, so that's going to help. They definitely need a win here. If they lose here, they're definitely out of the playoff race because they got a lot of climbing to do if they want to get back in the playoffs. Washington State versus Ole Miss, undefeated. Ole Miss, a home team, number 4, the top 4 team in the nation. Should be a blowout. Chamberlain is looking fantastic. Indiana, this is probably going to be the big game of the game of the week. Indiana versus Oregon, a top 10 battle. Indiana undefeated. Oregon undefeated as well. I think Oregon is definitely the clear favorite in this game. Indiana's a good team, but if I had to predict, I would say it isn't close. Like, Indiana's a good team, but they just are not ready for the big stage. In Oregon, because they probably Monte Moore is, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the nation. Texas, this was supposed to be a top 10 matchup that I would. You would think this would be a top 10 matchup. John Mateer. Oklahoma had a very bad year last year. Still a great defense. Even better defense this year. They might have one of the best defensive lines in the entire nation. They now have a good quarterback, which has propelled them to success. This was supposed to be a top 10 matchup and probably would have been the game of the week if Texas not had a horrible start to the season. Even as a Texas fan, I do anticipate us getting blown out and getting thrashed. I honestly, part of me kind of hopes that the first half is really ugly so that the head coach, Steve Sarkisian, finally pulls the plug on Arch Manning, puts him in the backup, and see him do some success, which will grant him at least a chance of earning the starting position because it's unbelievable. So we'll see if Texas, can put up a fight, if any at all. Texas has a horrible offensive line, and Oklahoma is one of the best defensive lines in the country, and it might be a bloodbath. It might look like the early 2000s, early 2010s. It might look ugly. Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech is not a team to shy away from. They can throw some punches, but Georgia Tech is looking very strong this year. One of the best teams in the NCAA. I personally would like to see them beat Miami and win the ACC. I feel like they're another quarterback, Hines King. He's a cool player. Plays tough. Not afraid of contact. NC State at Notre Dame. None of those games that Notre Dame is probably definitely favored in. Yeah, they're favored by 21 points. Let's look at this. Texas is favored in this game by 2 points. Really? That doesn't make any sense. Oregon's only favored by 7. They probably win a lot more by that. Everyone's only favored by 2.5. This is shocking that Texas is favored by 2.5 points. I don't understand why. I think John Mateer is supposed to start. He had an injury, had a surgery on his hand, and should be back in time. But even with their backup quarterback, I would suspect that Oklahoma will be favored by at least a touchdown. That's really strange. Iowa State and Colorado. Colorado head coach, as we know, is Sanders. They suck this year. I'm not gonna lie, they're 0-3 in the Big 12. They could pull off the upset there at home, but I highly doubt it. I think that he made a mistake leaving Jackson State. Guaranteed championship every year, pretty much. All the recruits you could want. Especially like Colorado, you're never going to be good in Colorado, but it's just not going to happen. But whatever. Kudos to him for trying. Arkansas versus Tennessee. Now, we all know last year Arkansas pulled this upset at home, but this time they're traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee's own loss is to Georgia at home, a Gary game that they definitely should have won had the kicker not absolutely sold. Arkansas has a really great offense, but one of the worst defenses in the entire Power 5. The defense is absolutely atrocious, so this could be a slugfest. If Arkansas' offense can keep up with Tennessee, they could potentially win this game, but doubt it. Tennessee is favored by 12 points, but you never know. Florida and A&M. Florida coming off that win against my team, Texas. Hopefully revitalizing DJ Lagway. They're going to be playing at College Station. A&M's favored by 7.5 points. If DJ Lagway starts to play well, this could be a game. If he keeps playing like he has been, A&M could very well blow them out of the water. One game he had 5 interceptions. That's insane. Kansas, they still have Daniels, still a great quarterback. But they're 4-2, 2-1 in the Big 12, but they're playing Texas Tech. So this will probably be a shootout, in my opinion, an absolute shootout. But I don't think Kansas has the firepower to keep up with Texas Tech's offense. It's insane. Georgia now on Auburn. Auburn's got a transfer from Oklahoma last year that put their team in the dumpster fire. Like he's horrible. Jackson Arnold, I think, is coming to Auburn. They're 0-12 in the SEC and probably will go 0-3. UJ's only favored by 3 points, but even though it's at Auburn, I think it's going to be a blowout right here. Michigan versus USC. USC just outside the top 25. This could be a big game for them, to prove that they deserve to be in the top 25 by beating Michigan. This might be a guy who's a pretty good quarterback. 11 touchdowns, only 1 interceptions. It's at home, so this could be I think it's going to be a really tight game. And USC is actually favored. Wow, it's actually favored. So I would not be surprised if they pull this upset right here. South Carolina versus LSU. South Carolina, one of those teams in the top 10. Or so we're supposed to be one of the higher than the favorites. They have not had a good year so far. Could be a big game. They're in Death Valley, so good luck. But LSU's favored by 9.5 points. You never know. I think either it's going to be a blowout or South Carolina's going to pull away. But you never know. BYU versus Arizona. Arizona's got Noah Fifta. I really thought Noah Fifta was going to propel Arizona to success in the Big 12, but I guess I was wrong. BYU looking to remain undefeated on the road. Arizona State and Utah. Another close matchup here. I mean, BYU was only favored by 1.5 points. Utah only favored by 5. Sam Levitt, who was supposed to be the big-time quarterback this year, has not had a successful start. 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. See if they can right the ship. They're still undefeated in the Big 12, still got a chance to win, but a lot of good teams right here in the Big 12, as you can see. That's it for next week. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content, and bench Arch Manning. See you guys next week.